The Night Whisper. The village of Mbesa, nestled in the fold of the hills, was a place that time had all but forgotten. Thick canopies of baobab trees shaded the red earth paths, and the air always carried the warm scent of hibiscus and firewood. Life moved slowly here. The people were humble, the days long, and the nights sacred. But as the sun dipped beyond the horizon and darkness spilled over the land, Mbesa became a different world. A world of whispers and warnings. The elders told tales, always by the fireside, their voices low, as if fearing to summon something from the shadows. Of all the legends passed down, none stirred more unease than that of Nyoka, the Night Whisper. They said it was a creature not quite of flesh, not quite of spirit. It wept like an infant in the dark, a sound so pitiful and pure it cracked even the hardest heart. But those who answered its cries were never seen again. Most dismissed it as myth, a story to keep children close to home and lovers in their beds. But not Ao. Ao was the village herbalist, known for her gentle spirit and healing touch. Widowed young, she had devoted her life to serving the people of Mbesa. Her mud brick hut was at the edge of the village, near the forest. She had heard the old stories, and though she didn't believe them fully, she respected them, just as she respected all things rooted in tradition. One evening, under the weight of a moonless sky, A was grinding dried marula leaves when she heard it. A faint cry. A baby's cry. She paused, hands hovering above the mortar. It was so soft at first, she thought it might have been the wind playing tricks. But then it came again, louder, more insistent. Ao stood slowly, heart fluttering like a bird in a cage. She moved to the doorway, staring into the dark. Another cry. This time, closer. Her rational mind whispered caution, babies aren't left out in the middle of the night. But something deeper, instinctive, maternal, pulled at her chest. What if someone left a child outside her home? What if it was abandoned? She wrapped a shawl around her shoulders, grabbed her lantern, and stepped into the night. The village was still. Too still. Not even the cicadas sang. She followed the sound, her feet crunching lightly on the earth, until she reached the tree line. There, in the shadows beneath a low-hanging fig tree, was a bundle. Swaddled. Moving gently, as though something inside stirred. Her breath caught in her throat. Oh no, she murmured, hurrying forward. But as she bent to gather the infant, the bundle shifted. And lifted its face. What looked up at her was not human. The thing had skin pale as clay, streaked with veins as black as tar. Its mouth curled into an impossible grin, revealing jagged, glistening teeth like thorns. Its eyes glowed red, alive with hunger. Thick black saliva dripped down its chin. Ao stumbled backward, mouth wide in a silent scream. The lantern slipped from her hand and shattered, the flame snuffed instantly. The last thing she saw was the thing's mouth opening wide. Then, nothing. By morning, only her shawl remained. The villagers gathered, eyes wide, hearts heavy. And the elders, their faces lined with years and secrets, warned again. If you hear a child crying at night, shut your windows. And pray. The bone path. The sun rose sluggishly over Mbesa, casting long, reluctant rays over the village still wrapped in grief. Ao's disappearance had shaken the people to their core. Doors stayed shut longer in the mornings. Conversations were whispered. No one dared walk alone, especially after dark. So when Duma arrived, it was as if the wind had changed. He came on foot, cloaked in a patchwork robe of furs and feathers, a walking staff carved with strange runes at his side. His skin was weathered, and his eyes, one a deep brown, the other milky and blind, held the quiet of someone who had seen too much and lived to tell it. The children watched him from behind fences. The elders regarded him with curiosity. He moved like a man who belonged everywhere and nowhere all at once. At the village gathering, he introduced himself in a voice like rolling thunder. I am Duma. I hunt the forgotten things. The cursed ones. The creatures your stories whisper about when the fire burns low. At first, they were skeptical. Until he mentioned Nyoka. Mouths fell open. Some gasped. Others scoffed. I faced it before, he said, looking past them toward the forest. And I barely lived. Someone asked how he knew of it. Duma turned slowly, then told them what none had dared utter aloud. Nyoka was once a child. Born beneath a blood eclipse. Her cries were not those of joy, but of anguish. Her mother died in birth. The midwife, they say she heard voices from the baby's mouth. A prophecy. A curse. The villagers feared her. They wrapped her in white cloth and buried her alive, deep in the roots of the oldest fig tree. Gasps rippled through the crowd. She died choking on earth, and awoke as something else. He paused, eyes scanning their fearful faces. She weeps not for help, but for justice. She calls to those who might leave a child the way she was left. Anyone who ignores, who abandons, who does not listen. He shook his head. She marks them. The elders exchanged looks. But we've followed the old ways, one said. We shut our windows. We pray. Duma's voice dropped. It's not enough anymore. He explained that Nyoka was evolving, feeding off attention, fear, memory. The more the village spoke of her, the more power she gained. The boundary between myth and reality was wearing thin. That very night, as the air turned brittle and the stars blinked behind dark clouds, tragedy struck again. 2 young boys, Mato and Keiji, disappeared. They had been seen earlier, giggling and chasing fireflies in the field near the edge of the woods. When their parents found them missing, panic spread like wildfire. But what chilled everyone's blood was what the neighbor's daughter claimed. They said they heard a baby laughing. Duma was the first to move. At sunrise, he ventured to the field, walking slowly, eyes sharp. The grass was disturbed. Small footprints overlapped in circles, as if the boys had danced or spun in place. Then, something glinted near a bush. A small femur, smooth and polished like ivory. Then another. And another. Laid carefully, deliberately, pointing inward like arrows. A path made of bones. It snaked from the edge of the village into the heart of the forest. Duma knelt beside it and whispered a single word. She's calling. He stood, staff in hand, the weight of the village pressing on his shoulders. Behind him, doors creaked open. Eyes peered out. The whispers had begun again. The night whisper is no longer just crying, she's calling names. The crying grove. Zina walked with clenched fists and a burning resolve in her chest. Her brother, Keiji, was still missing, and she refused to sit idle while the village cowered behind shuttered windows and old stories. She had never believed in spirits, not really. She respected the elders, nodded during their tales, but deep down, she had always thought fear made myths grow legs. But now, fear had stolen her little brother, and silence wasn't an option. So when Duma announced he would follow the bone path, Zina was the only one who stepped forward. I'm coming with you. The old hunter gave her a long look, his one good eye unreadable. Then, he simply nodded. They walked beneath the twisted canopy of Mesa's forest, where daylight turned dusky and the air hummed with secrets. The bone path led like a skeletal ribbon, winding deeper than any villager dared tread. Zina tried to keep her courage lit, but even the birds didn't sing here. The trees leaned unnaturally. Moss draped over bark like mourning veils. Every so often, Zina would glimpse faint handprints on trunks, small, as if made by children. Then, they reached it. The womb of shadows. A clearing so still it felt like time itself had paused. At its center stood a massive, gnarled hollow tree, back blackened and cracked, whipping something dark and thick from its core. Around it lay decaying offerings, tiny mats, baby lanterns, rags of cloth, and faded toys, all rotting in a perfect circle, like forgotten prayers whispered too late. Xena froze. Her breath hitched. "This is where they left her," Duma said. "The child they called cursed." And then came the visions. In flashes, the forest remembered. A hunched midwife sobbing beneath a dying moon. A newborn, twisted and gasping, born during a crimson eclipse. Villagers kneeling, desperate. Their fields dry, livestock dead. Eyes wild with fear. The elders declared the baby a sign, a child of misfortune. They starved her. Then, they offered her up, not to a god, but to whatever would listen. They buried her beneath the old tree, believing her cries would bring back the rain. But the sky stayed dry. And something far older than rain heard her weeping. Back in the present, Xena dropped to her knees, overwhelmed. She was just a baby. Duma placed a hand on her shoulder. And she remembers every face that turned away. That night, they set up a small camp at the grove's edge. Duma warned her, "No matter what you hear, stay put." But as twilight melted into shadows, the tree cried. Low sobs echoed from its hollow, vibrating the very air. The weeping turned into wails. Then giggling. Then babbling nonsense that sounded like words Xena almost knew. The forest around them began to twist. Trees reshaped. The moon blinked in and out like a tired eye. The air warped with the smell of milk and rot. And then Xena saw him. Keiji. Standing near the tree. His little hands outstretched, face pale, eyes pleading. "Xena, come. I'm cold." She bolted before Duma could stop her. Each step felt like running through syrup. The trees laughed. Faces blinked in the bark. A baby cried, then screamed. Then giggled. Xena reached her brother, touched his hand. And screamed. It wasn't Keiji. It was something else wearing his face. Its eyes gleamed red, and its mouth split open with needle-sharp teeth. Suddenly, a flash of white, Duma's staff cracked down, severing the illusion. Xena stumbled back, gasping, as the thing melted into shadows with a hiss. "She's not just weeping now," Duma said, pulling her close. "She's learning how to pretend." They sat in silence as the forest settled once more, but the tree kept weeping. And beneath it, something whispered. "Bring me the ones who turned away, bring me the ones who forgot the math of madness." Duma sat cross-legged at the edge of the grove, sharpening the runes on his blade with ash and sap, his face hard. Xena watched the hollow tree continue to weep, its blood pooling into the roots with a sickening rhythm. "We have to destroy that tree," she said. Duma didn't look up. "It's not the tree. It's what lies beneath it." Xena frowned. "Then what do we do?" Duma took a breath. "There's something worse than her cries, worse than her illusions. Something she left behind when she died." He opened his satchel and pulled out a brittle scrap of woven reed mat, singed and blackened at the corners. "This was her mat," he whispered. "The last thing she touched before the earth swallowed her." Xena recoiled. The mat gave off no light, no glow, only a pull. A deep, bone-aching low, like a promise whispered in a dream. "It's a relic," Duma said. "Old magic. Whoever possesses it gains fortune. Food will never spoil, gold multiplies, animals obey. But it drives you mad. You hear her, day and night. Laughing. Crying. Demanding." Xena stared. "Why do you have it?" "I took it from the corpse of a priest who slit his own throat while smiling." Unknown to them both, they were not alone. Behind a cluster of trees, Mosi, a local merchant, had followed them. Greedy and shifty-eyed, He had been watching since they entered the forest, ears pricked for any mention of treasure. That night, as Duma and Zina slept beneath twisted branches, Mosi crept forward, heart racing, eyes fixed on the mat. "Just a piece of cloth," he whispered. "Nothing more." He snatched it and fled. Back in Besa, the change was immediate. Mosi's shop boomed overnight. His wares doubled in quantity. Goats birthed twins. Rain fell only on his crops. Gold coins rolled from corners like forgotten blessings. People whispered, praised him, feared him. And Mosi smiled, for a while. But soon, the whispers began. In his ears. In the walls. Under the floorboards. Nyoka's cries, soft at first. Then louder. Then impossible to shut out. "Why did you take it? Why did you leave me?" He tried stuffing cotton in his ears. Tried pouring hot wax inside. Nothing worked. He stopped sleeping. Shadows grew under his eyes. His skin turned pale. He hissed at sunlight. He nailed shut his doors and windows, accused his own wife of hiding babies in the walls. "They cry all night. You hear them too, don't you?" His children fled, terrified. His wife wept and ran to the elders. But Mosi wouldn't part with the mat. He clutched it like a lifeline, rocking back and forth, whispering to it, feeding it small dead animals as offerings. Zina and Duma returned to the village to chaos. People avoided Mosi's home. Some whispered of curses. Others claimed he now muttered in a child's voice. "We have to get that mat back," Duma growled. But Mosi refused. He met them at the door with bloodshot eyes and a hunting knife. "She chose me," he croaked. "She said I'm her new papa." That night, the sky above Besa turned sickly red. Thunder rumbled from clear skies. Then came the cries. Not one child. Not two. But hundreds. Screaming. Wailing. Laughing. Mourning. From every corner of the village. And then, Nyoka came. Not as a mist. Not as a whisper. But in physical form, towering and twisted. A screaming mass of infant limbs, faces, and bone, with her true face at the center, glowing red eyes, rows of teeth, skin like crumbling wax, a shadow of a girl that never got to live. She descended on Mosi's home like a tornado of vengeance. People saw the house rattle and pulse, heard him scream as the windows bled black liquid. Zina ran forward, but Duma pulled her back. He took her pain and tried to profit from it, he said. Now she's collecting the debt. The cries died down by dawn. Mosi's house stood empty, rotting, as if it had been abandoned for years. And in its center, curled in a perfect circle, was the mat, untouched, waiting. Return the cry. Besa had become a village of echoes. The cries, once distant, once confined to the midnight shadows, now ran out even beneath the sun. Mothers wept as their children covered their ears. Fathers lit sacred fires that did nothing to keep the sound away. The crying was constant. Hungry. Grieving. Piercing. The elders, once proud and unmoving, now sat shaking beneath the kiwa tree, their voices trembling. We buried our shame, one muttered, and now it comes crawling out with teeth. Zina stood among them, her hands clenched, her face streaked with dirt and resolve. Duma beside her, bloodied but unbroken. We can't fight her with swords or prayers, Zina said. She doesn't want war. She wants rest. Duma nodded. It's time. We give back what was taken. Zina turned to the villagers. We must perform the ritual of return. We must take the mat back to where it all began. Not with fear. Not with force. With grace. The sun was setting as they gathered. Old women wove white linen. Young men scattered blessed herbs across the paths. The children watched silently, even they had stopped crying. Zina took the mat, now wrapped in clean white cloth, and placed it in a cradle made of palm branches. As the wind picked up, she whispered a lullaby. One her mother used to hum on stormy nights. Sleep now, little shadow / the moon will keep you warm / your tears shall fall no longer / your heart shall come to harm. The wind paused, as if listening. Zina entered the forest alone. Even Duma remained behind, holding back only with great effort. If you don't return, he said, voice cracking, I'll come find you. She smiled weakly. If I don't return, it means she finally can. The bone path crunched underfoot. The deeper she went, the more the forest began to warp. Trees leaned in like eavesdroppers. Shadows paused like heartbeats. Cries echoed in every direction, babies, mothers, twisted lullabies turned into screams. She kept walking. Singing. Finally, she reached the womb of shadows. The tree still wept, though the blood had slowed to a trickle. Then, silence. She turned. And there it was. Nyoka. Not a monster this time. Not a storm. Just a child. Small. Pale. Its limbs curled inward like a newborn's, but skin cracked and flaking like tree bark. Its eyes were hollow, yet wet. Its mouth opened, and no sound came out. Zina knelt and placed the mat before it. She unwrapped it slowly, reverently. I am sorry, she whispered. For how they treated you. For leaving you alone. For forgetting your name. She reached out, brushing what little hair clung to its scalp. You can rest now. Nyoka blinked. A single tear fell from its eye. Then another. But they weren't red. They were clear. The child opened its mouth. And this time, the cry that came out was not one of anger or hunger. It was a wail of grief. The sound of a baby who finally realized no one was coming, and was ready to say goodbye. Zina wept with it, holding the spirit as its body began to fade, its form becoming dust, then ash. The forest exhaled a long, deep sigh. Leaves rustled softly. Flowers bloomed where Nyoka vanished. Zina emerged at dawn. The village was waiting. No one said a word. No one needed to. There were no more cries. Not even from the birds. The elders wept and bowed to her. Duma embraced her tightly, whispering, you did it. Years passed. The village healed. And Zina, no longer the girl who chased shadows, became an elder herself. She told the children stories. Of courage. Of kindness. Of the things we leave behind, and the ones we must never forget. And every tale ended the same way. If you hear a baby crying in the night, stay in your bed. And never, ever answer. For some cries were never meant to be heard.